Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 4th, 2023 at approximately 4:27 p.m. PST. You know, I'm going to start off right off the here. Was going to until he got interrupted by me. Okay, we're going to start right off the bat with Cliff. You even got in the door before I did. You definitely come in with the gold. And Philip, you've come in with silver. Shadow, how we doing? You pulled in with the bronze. Yeah, it's going to be a... You lost track of the days, did you, Philip? I find I celebrate every day. I'm still not pushing daisies. That's just me, though. I figure I'm going to do it different and get buried under roses. In all fairness, I'm likely to end up cremated, but I frankly don't really care. I was taking a look at it, and the reality of life is we are in the fourth day of 2023. And I spent most of my afternoon in talking to the banks to make sure I had a handle on things. And so I want to start things off with a couple of little points. Number one, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay. Now, do understand, the tools I talk about are the ones that I personally am using. The philosophies of life I deal with are the ones I personally live by. Now, here's the thing. Every single investment I have ever made, bar none, if it's been putting money in somebody else's hand to get money to grow for me, bar none, it has never worked. Okay, the only time things have worked for me in that department. Thank you so much for that there, Shadow. Yeah, that was really good English, and I speak good English Raider too. But the reality of it is this: if you're looking at your finances, which would be an idea, because what you may not realize is the state of your finances are tied not only to your pocketbook, they are tied to your sense of well-being, your sense of self-worth, your actual physical and mental health. So what I'm looking at right now is we're at the beginning of the year. Let's focus on getting finances doing what they should be. Philip, oh, you were already in. Oh, the 11th day, isn't it? Glad one of us knows. I have enough trouble figuring out what day of the week it is. But if we work together, and it's been suggested because of the fact that I'm now unemployed, and that's I don't have a stable income per se, that I should look at crowdfunding. Well, I could. The GoFundMe programs. I tried one years ago, didn't get a plug nickel, so I'm not going there. But what I am doing is I've got access to my ISBN numbers. So I'm actually listed as a publisher. And one of the things that I'm looking at there is to be able to help people realize their dreams. Now, am I going to come out and say, oh, here's the best author in the world? Not a prayer. Okay, and here's why. Okay, I know what I personally like. Okay, there are types of books that I will not deal with, even as I start taking on other people's work. But I got to figure out how to get the system working on my end first. So that's going to be a bit down the road. I'm figuring within the year, I will start publishing other people's books. But there will be some very definitive stipulations. Okay, I will not, and there is no way I will ever do it. Adult books, I just won't have anything to do with. It's not that I have anything against them. It's just I have no purpose in utilizing them. Okay, and there are way too many complications that can come out. In all fairness, I don't even know what Patreon is. And the second, the fact of the matter is, Philip, where it comes to anything in the way of technology, I'm really behind the eight ball. Now I know Chad has offered to help me set up with StreamYard, but I'm holding off changing programs as far as video goes. I'm holding off changing programs until I actually have a new computer. Because frankly, this one's having a hiccup. Well, to take consolation, Philip, I actually read that as have you tried it? The reality for me is this. When you take a look at your finances, now I can talk in actual terms, in actual numbers, but it really doesn't matter. Take a look at your bank account. Okay. Figure out what you've got in it. And all it takes is literally, like, this is really heavy duty work. You open your bank account up, you go, okay, there's how much money I've got. And the whole trick to knowing whether you're making headway is you take a look at the starting balance. You never, ever, ever, if you can avoid it at all, never spend more money than what you've got, than what comes in. Okay. Now, that said, yeah, that's a neat part about it there, Philip. I mean, years ago, it was explained to me this way. Everybody literally gets what they call a busy signal in their brain. Whereas you end up they get a busy signal about once every 3 seconds. Okay. But it usually falls into a blank or into an inconsequential word or into a syllable that you don't require. Or like what just happened there, it automatically turns things around so you can actually read what was intended. From my standpoint, the less calculations I have to do, the better off I am. Okay. But if you take a look at your starting balance, you start there. Whatever comes in, if there is any way to avoid it, do not spend more than what comes in. Okay. Now, I just made an interesting discovery. Okay, I went down to the bank because I know I'm going to run into, or it's highly probable I'll run into a snag at the end of the month. Not having a stable income might do that to you. So I went in there, and I forget who it was. Somebody mentioned in here that if you withdraw less money out of your RSP, they don't take as much tax, at least up here in Canada. Well, here's the stupid part. I asked about that. If a financial advisor is going to be an advisor, they should be anticipating these kinds of things. Okay, when I first talked to him, I talked to this guy about pulling all of my money out. Right, he didn't offer any insight into what I should have looked at, because apparently in Canada, at least with the TD Bank, which is who I work with, if you've got an RSP and you're pulling money out of it, if you take out up to 5,000, they take 10%. If you take between 5 and 10,000, okay, between 5,001 and 10,000, they take 20%. Anything over 10,000, they take 30. Now, a financial advisor, when I talked about the issue of possibly pulling all the money out, his first comment as a qualified advisor should have been, don't pull it all out because this, and this. Okay, thankfully, somebody in the chat room, and my apologies, I forget exactly who it was, turned around and brought this to my attention. Okay, came out really handy. Yeah, and this is, see, I'm lucky. The editor I'm working with, which happens to be the same person I'm planning on marrying in time, is as picky as they get where it comes to editing. As in, she literally not only looks for commas that shouldn't be where they are and that sort of thing, but she looks for added spaces at the end of a paragraph. Just simply extra things that you wouldn't even think about, or at least I did. Okay, so we go over a piece at a time together, and I shudder to think how many hours it actually takes. But with that in mind, one of the things I do have to keep in mind, because I am looking at building a publishing side to the business. I don't know where all I'm going to go with it. What I do know is the written word lasts longer than the spoken one does. Okay, and it's pretty obvious to see that. Like I've got one book I wrote that I will absolutely never correct the spelling on. And it is so chock full of typos that you would be appalled. The problem is, it's a channeled autobiography, meaning I literally didn't know what it said until the book was finished. But I've been asked about doing creative writing for other people. Okay, like somebody asked me, would I write a speech? And I will tell you this: there is no way I'm writing a speech for somebody, because I would have to know the person, the product, what the speech was about, and the company they were working for in order to do it properly. Okay, now I don't claim to be a professional writer. Heck, I don't even claim to be a good one. But I've got all these different ideas in my head that I desire to get out. And this is why I turned around. As a matter of fact, if I don't get a call, I think I've got to get back a hold of copyright and find out the answers I need to questions there. But again, we're going to go back to the finances here, because that's the backbone of your success. Okay, it's not that money makes anybody better. Okay, if you've got more money than I do, which by the way is highly probable, okay, then that's great, but you're still not of any more spiritual value, at least not to me, than anybody else. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I honestly don't know what the person was looking for, because I told them flat out I won't do a speech. Because, I have enough trouble talking to you guys. In case you hadn't noticed, I don't exactly follow a static line. Okay. And what is today? I think today's Wednesday. See, I'm still having that kind of fun trying to figure out where I am. Yeah, today's Wednesday. So the neat part is I'm going on to a show tonight, and I don't honestly have the information for you to tell you where. Okay. But I'll be going on to a show tonight. I'll be on Dave's show on Friday. But in the meantime, I'm doing all this other work. So when you look at your finance, if you're not, regardless of what anybody tells you, and I do mean that quite literally, the backbone of it is this. Yes, Philip, that's exactly correct. But that's on Friday. I'll be there. The reality of it is this. If you look at finances, the backbone is simple. If you spend less than you're earning, your retirement fund will climb, your savings will climb. If you spend more than you're earning, then they won't. Now, many of you are in the same boat I was in, and quite frankly, still am in a way. And I really am at this point, where you've overextended yourself and you're just not making ends meet. Okay, it's just one of these things that is not going to work, because you just don't have the cash flow for it. I should have checked. I don't need that up there, that's for certain. So we closed that, but I do want to see what this one was doing. Or did I shut it down already? I did shut it down, so it'll wait until afterwards. Anyway, I was told if you're going to run a business, you don't have to worry about a business license because, frankly, you're already in business on your own, which is probably true. Okay, but I always found if I was going to run a business, put a name behind it. It looks, in my opinion, more professional. Now, let's face it, I'm a lot of things, but I'm not exactly the poster child for state of the art. I'm not the poster child for the top of etiquette. I mean, I remember sitting in a restaurant one day, and I was there with mom and dad, and we're sitting there. We placed our order, and the waitress she come across, she brought the food, and then she's looking at the table, and she's clearly overwhelmed. Because she was new anyway, but she had forgot something, and she knew what it was. She knew she forgot something and couldn't piece it together. So here I am. Okay, here I am. I turned around, and I all of a sudden just, we had the food in front of us, and I just looked at the girl, and just as it's dawning on her, I grabbed a pinch of coleslaw and popped it into my mouth. Well, my dad nearly had a coronary laughing. Mom was just absolutely flabbergasted. I just looked at the girl and I said, "It's okay." I had fingers way before forks. But from my standpoint, it took the edge off for her. Well, I did think about that. I was looking at that, but the fact of the matter is, to investigate, you have to actually enjoy researching there, Philip. And there's one thing I don't like. It's going out and doing a bunch of researching and reading a bunch of stuff that other people have done. Okay, or other people have concluded. Most of what I've come across, okay, unfortunately, I can find holes in. Now, do not get me wrong. Some of the researchers out there are phenomenal. And, if you take a look at World here, the research he's done on Bigfoot is absolutely mind-boggling. But I'll tell you, all the research in the world has no comparison to first-hand contact. And I'm not talking contact as in over there on the far side of the meadow, I see one. I'm talking about up close, up personal, feeling the softness of their hands and the soft leathery feel of their hands. Okay. And if you think the smell that people smell at a distance is odd, okay, wait until you get really close to these guys. That's enough to make your eyes water on occasion. But what I found was this. I've got 3 accounts that I keep real solid track on. Okay. That is the account that I use, that I buy and say that I buy things through, as in my grocery bills, utilities, all that. Right. Well, technically I don't pay my utilities through that, but when I'm going to buy groceries or incidentals, if I'm going out for a meal, that sort of thing, it goes through one account. I've got another account that is only there to handle my rent and my pre-authorized payments. In this case, the only one that's in there is my car. And then I've got my business account. Now, the reality of it is my business, okay, is the thing I am going to push to grow. But this is part of the business. Chad, welcome on board. Glad you could join us. The reality is the people that are in here, like Chad here, as you guys already know, has his own podcast. Okay. He's got a different take on things than what I do. World's got a different take on things than what we do. And these are all different things that when we work together, we can combine these connections and really turn this world around. Okay, we really can turn it around, but it's going to take work. One of the biggest things we have to remember, or at least it would be wise to remember, is when you're looking at your finances. Now, if you're younger than I am, which 90% of you probably are, there's a couple of them in the chat room that are actually older than I am. But I can pretty much guarantee none of them even hold a candle to me in the regards to the number of times I've dropped dead. Okay, and I suggest you don't compete with me on that one. I'm not much in for competition anyway. But I'd hate to have somebody, one of our guests here, I'd hate to have one of them pipe up and go, "Hey, so and so died because he figured he'd try and compete with you, and well, he didn't make it." Okay, it's a bad bet. The way I figure it, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over. But here I am, 59 years old, dang near broke. And I'm looking at it going, I'm going to build an empire. I'm going to build not only this publishing thing, and this is something that just came to me this morning, really. I've got my own books to do, and that will remain my priority. But as soon as I figure out how to get things done, figure out the legal side of things, which will require meetings with lawyers and what have you to make sure that I understand what I'm walking into, so that I don't have to worry about it down the road. That's just the reality behind it. But the reason I'm looking at it is many publishers will take a look at a book and go, I'm not printing it, period. Okay, it's not good enough for me. I'm not looking at it from the standpoint of it's good enough for me or that's hard. There are topics I will not deal with. Okay. But am I going to go into the side of editing it for people? In all fairness, not likely. At least not until I get much bigger and have extra people that I know can edit. Like, I dealt with an editor that, as it turned out, was absolutely useless. Okay. Unfortunately, and that's, it's hard to find an editor that's really good. It's hard to find a radio show host or an internet or a YouTube host that is really good. I mean, let's face it. I went and did, and I forget what company it was, but sometime this spring I should be on a TV show, not on a TV show, on a documentary. Okay, but I will tell you, the one drawback with the whole 9 yards was I am the way I am. This is just me. If I go to a speaking engagement, to a conference, and that remains to be seen whether I do. Okay, it's still up in the air regarding transportation restrictions and finance. But the closest thing I do to getting dressed up is I'll put a golf shirt on. Okay. I'm just not interested in this idea of, let's get the great big, the incredible suit and what have you. I'm just not that into it. Not yet. I've been a little preoccupied getting, the reality is there, Philip, the last week here, I've been on the horn constantly with the guy setting up my YouTube, my Amazon bookstore, and of course talking to the bank to make sure that I get all the finances. However, is Walter on my list of people to talk to? The answer is definitively yes. Okay, like I said, one of my biggest holdouts is I've always been, my entire life, I've been a professional procrastinator. It was funny. I had somebody that claimed to be linked to Amazon today call me, telling me they were interested in having me on a show to talk about my books. And, because they really liked what I had and they really wanted to help me. Sure they did, but they wanted $1,300 US. for me to actually get on the show. They weren't looking to help. They were looking to make money off of me. Okay. And this is after I told the guy, I said, look, if it's going to be a plug in, cost me a nickel, it's overpriced. I don't have it right now. I just ended up without an income. The Echo didn't even die. And he says, well, it will cost a little bit. Right. I said, I don't think you heard me. Look, give me half a second on that. Yeah. Hey, I'm on the air. Half a second. I'll give you the can. I'm back. Yeah, but no sooner did I tell this guy that I had no money and if it was going to cost me a nickel, that he turned around and said, it was going to create that it would take $1,300. I'm thinking, are people in this industry just deaf across the country, across the world? From my standpoint, if I say, I don't have the money to spend, that's where it ends. It's not, you can talk me into it. I jump right in, and I've run into problems with it because I jump to the answer way before I get all the details. And I find out the details tell me the answer was right anyway. But where it comes to getting your life in order, like I said, take a look at where your finances are. What is sitting in your bank? Never mind anything else. Bottom line, when you take all the brass tacks out of the way, the bottom line is if you're spending less money than what's coming in, your bank account will grow. Okay, so I know where mine is all starting. Now it's just a question of making sure that it continues to go that direction. That it continues to climb. Because I don't know about you, but from my standpoint, this whole concept of living on the street does not make me a happy camper. It's not one of those things I'm actually looking forward to. But for some people, pre-approved payments and what have you, work really well. For me, I only use them when they're absolutely required. Otherwise, I'll get around the other side of it. Yeah, the neat part there is what I'm working on right now is I've got a printer in town here that is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so if I can work with her and find a way of distributing the books easier, or more to the point, at least less expensively. Well, there you go. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And people, if you look at the top of the chat room there, you'll find the link to Shadow's show. Drop in and take a look at what he's up to. It's usually a lot of fun what he's working on. Ouch. Never thought about that, but it makes total sense from my end. They claim to be a radio show. They actually claim to be connected with CBS. So I guess when you put CBS and a $1,300 fee together, I don't think CBS actually charges their guests to come on the show. I'm pretty certain they don't. I know Dave is not a real big player in the overall scheme, but as far as I understand, he has never paid anybody to come on his show. Maybe he has. I don't know the background to it. Okay. Personally, when I was running a show myself, I never did. I never took the time I never even considered charging people to come on my show. Okay. And I know for an absolute fact when I went on Chad's show a little while ago, or on Nathan's show a little while ago, Nathan never even considered, or maybe did, but never even brought up the idea that I should pay him to come on his show. I'm thinking there's something wrong here. So it may take me a little longer to get to where I'm heading. But I've got a printer here that is, I've already talked to her a number of times. She'll be around at least long enough for me to get the entire Yldrbacian Chronicles out and printed. Okay. But when you're looking at your finances, you have to take a look at what you're spending. For me, I figure, realistically, I was last year, in the restaurant, I was cooking somewhere between $300 and $400 a month on going to the restaurant. So needless to say, this was overextension. So I put a limit on it, and said, I'm just not spending that much anymore. And you've got to do the same thing. The reality is that success, where it comes to finance especially, but success is actually very simple. You've got to have a plan. More to the point, you've got to have a purpose. Why are you doing it? Well, I appreciate that little bit of confirmation there, Philip. It's amazing. You put money in front of me and go, and like I know in Hollywood, there was a company out of Hollywood that wanted to do my life story. And I looked at it and I listened to what they had to say. And I ended up turning them down and told them what they could do with the contract in the long run. But the guy looks at me, the funny part about it was he looks at me and he goes, "Look, Keith, you don't understand the money you're turning down. Because I know exactly how much money I'm turning down. But what you don't get is I don't care. Because, money has never brought me happiness. I mean, absolutely, it has cut down on my stress levels. But when you're looking at what's in your bank account, pay attention to what you actually can afford. That also applies to when you're striving to help somebody else. Do not make the mistake of putting yourself behind the 8 ball because you're trying to be nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's necessary. But there comes a point where you have to look in the mirror and go, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. Because doing this is going to put me in a bind, which means I'm going to need help. Now, thankfully, what I get from this show has absolutely nothing to do with monetary. It will in time, because once I get subscribers, and that is, I'm actually really happy about this. I am aiming for 1,000 subscribers this year, but right now I'm sitting at 343. Which, well, of course that would make sense, you doorknob. Which puts me at just over 34% of my reach. But the reason for it is because one of the streams of income I desire to have coming into Inner Voice. Inner Voice Enterprises is a company I started back in 2015 and did absolutely nothing with it. That was the stupid part about it. 2015, I think that's wrong. That's very definitely wrong. I'm off by 8 years. I actually started Inner Voice Enterprises in 2007. August 11th, 2007, at approximately 5 minutes to noon. And I believe it was on a Friday, but I'd have to double check that part. The problem is I didn't do anything with it. Absolutely, Philip. The reality of success is this, and it follows karmic law. You must be true to you first. Because if you're not true to yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be in good shape to take care of anybody else. This is really drilled into you when they go through the if you go on an airplane and they say when the oxygen mask drops down, make sure you can breathe before you try getting the neighbor to breathe. Okay, because you're going to have a problem trying to help them if you don't. So when you look at it, like I look at the bank and I go, okay, this is what I've got coming in. Now, all you have to remember is this. If your bank account is growing by 1 penny by the end of the month, you're in an uphill climb. And this is what you aim for. The smaller the success that you target, the easier it is to attain. But do understand, don't limit yourself and say that by saying that's all I can make. Okay, really critical. Those 4 words I've talked about. Okay, I am worth it. Those 4 words are bar none the most powerful combination I've run into in any language for bolstering self-esteem, self-worth, self-motivation. You get the picture? Okay, now that can help you. It can help everybody around you. Okay, it's kind of like a while ago, there was a set of commercials that basically said, smile, start a pandemic. Okay, I actually told somebody that one day, that they should, that if we were to all smile, we could start a pandemic that everybody was happy about. We can continue looking at the past. We can continue looking at what went wrong, or what we should have done. Or you can look in the mirror and go, here's where I'm standing. How am I going to make that a better setup? Okay. I was lucky. I come home today. Actually, it was before I headed out. Ended up with an extra free $50 worth of food for my household. And I'll tell you, I never understood why people throw food out, especially canned food and sealed pasta. I'm not talking about sealed as in you put it in a bag and you close it up again. I'm talking about store-bought packages of spaghetti. Okay, they're still fully sealed. And this box was left in the lobby. So the reality of it is, if, when you're looking at it, this really does. I should probably finish one thought before I carry on with the next. What do you think? If you're taking a look in the mirror and you're going, I'm not entirely content with the way my life is going, then it is up to you to change what's going on. It's up to you to find a way, which boils down to, more often than not, talking to somebody else about what they have done. Now, I can tell you exactly how I turned my life around. Okay, I can tell you exactly how to turn yours around. What I cannot do. Greetings, Carlito. Glad you could join us. Hope your new year has been going well. And speaking of that, Happy New Year to you. I'd say if you celebrate it, but let's face it, everybody celebrates the new year because, well, it kind of comes and goes, and you end up with a new number to put on any checks you're signing or on any agreements. So we kind of get forced into looking at 2023. But I came to the conclusion that what we have to do, and what I'm going to be looking at in the way of what I'm doing here, one, find a way to help people find a brighter side to things. Okay, we could certainly talk about everything going sour. Absolutely we could. And there's a lot of it going sour. Okay. If we concentrate on what's going sour, we will miss what's going well. Like, for instance, if you take a look at it this way from a gardening standpoint, if you pay attention to the fact that you've got tomato worms in the garden, you may overlook the fact that you've got corn that's turning out absolutely beautifully. Okay, it would be very wise to focus on the positive things that are going around you. I mean, I understand there are bad things that happen, but why broadcast the bad things and not the good ones? Right. If we go home, we take a look at. I just popped over to Facebook for a second. Yeah, and it's amazing how many, like, the ads that come up right off the bat are about finding somebody to crawl into bed with, and it's like, guys, yes, that is one of those things that it does matter to people, absolutely. But, oh, you saw Bigfoot today. Way to go. Let me get back to that so I can actually read it properly. Yeah, that's Carlito. If you're going to start off the year and, if you're looking for Bigfoot and you spot him, I'll tell you, it is a rush that there is no comparison to it. My only run-in with Bigfoot or encounter with Bigfoot, honestly, happened when I was only 4 years old-ish. Okay. Haven't seen one since, but you got to remember, for some reason, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, however you want to put it, they don't come into the inside of a city or inside of a town. They just tend to avoid it. But take a look at what you're looking at. Like, take a look at where your life is. Are you content with where it is? It's absolutely imperative at this point because the millionaires are making money. Okay, left, right, and center. Okay, what doesn't make sense to me is why tax the people that don't have any money. You'll make far better money off the ones that do. Yeah, well, again, just a curiosity thing, Philip. From that standpoint, do you ever leave the city? This is why I don't run into them anymore, because I don't leave my city. As a matter of fact, I barely leave my apartment. That's just it. Like, the people that have talked to me about Sasquatch being such a violent creature and such a scary thing, I'm looking at them going, I can't picture it. I mean, certainly they're big, they're furry, they've got, and, the reality is they do not have the fangs that people keep painting them with. Oh, they've got sharp teeth. The guys are not that violent. Okay, they really aren't. Now, no, they're not strict vegetarians, but at the same time, they're not a violent race. But it really is time that we take a look at the world and go, are you leaving a positive mark? Are you leaving a positive mark on the world around you? Okay, it's like I keep telling people, I make every single individual I meet, every one of them without exception, I make them absolutely happier than get out, sometimes almost ecstatic. Okay, I'm just that kind of a personality. But here's the kicker to it. They're either, some of them are happy because I showed up. Most of them are happy because I leave. But they're still happy. And from my end, the more relaxed I get, the better, the more energy I tend to have, and the more functional things will get. But it's one of these important things that you're the one in dominant control of how things are going, on how your life is going to unfold. Okay, it's not up to anybody else. You all have exactly the same opportunity. Now let's take a look at the obvious issue. Okay, where it comes to making your money go a little further. Okay, the idea of things going on sale. Oh, my cursor's in the wrong place. Yeah, that's just it. And you notice, Carlito, even when you're dealing with people face to face, if you're relaxed and polite, and respectful to them, same as if somebody is being relaxed and respectful to you, you have a much higher inclination to give them a hand, to give them your time. If people are coming at you and barking at you all the time, you're not really that interested in finding out just exactly what they're about. This is why I find it really fascinating that so many people open fire first and then go, "Are you friendly?" And I'm thinking, like, my response would be, "Well, I was." But, that thing about being shot at kind of disappointed me. But you take a look at yourself. Are you presenting yourself in a way that you're content with? Like, for instance, could I do like I've been told? Get my hair cut, get it all pulled back, so it's all parted down the one side. Could I? Certainly. Am I going to bother? I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you. The reality is I used to have my hair all the way down to here, that being the elbow. My hair used to be down to there without, and that's without pulling on it. But if you treat yourself, the thing that most people overlook is they treat everybody reasonably and they try and treat people really well, but they treat themselves like garbage. I was talking to somebody in the bank today, and she said, she looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, it's just stressful being out and about." She says, "But I find that, a cold shower really works." Then she went on to explain how that works to be good for you. I looked at her and I said, "Well, there's a bit of a glitch there." She says, "It works for just about everybody." I says, "Yep, but a cold shower stops my heart." Right? And she goes, "That's not good for relaxation." I says, "Yeah, you notice that too, eh?" But if you take a look at what you're doing, ask yourself this. Okay, I saw it done really nicely one day. A person comes up to their boss and goes, "I've got to tell you something." The boss looks at it and goes, "First, is it going to make me upset?" Right. And then he goes, "Is it going to make me upset right off the bat?" Second, is there any sort of benefit to my knowing about it? Right. And then he goes, "And third, is it going to hurt the person the people involved?" And of course, she answered the question. And the boss goes, "Look, if it's not going to be of any benefit to me, and all it's going to do is hurt somebody else, I don't want to know about it." I do appreciate that, Carlito. The best I can do here is tell you this is the road that I walk down. Yeah, I forget there was a lady that lived up. She used to be known as the gorilla lady or the gorilla woman. Mountain gorillas, yes, they're massive. They can tear your limbs off and beat you to death with the wet end. But they are one of the gentlest creatures out there. Okay. It's the same as crocodiles. You want to see something phenomenal with somebody that's got, I think it's something like 3,500 psi when they close their mouth. Where it comes to their own kids, to their own eggs, they can pick them up without cracking them. We get taught to fear everything. Okay. We get taught to fear change. Okay. And I just love the religions that go, "Money is the root of all evil, so give us all your money." I'm like, there's a problem here. If it's the root of all evil, why are you taking it on? Well, take a look at the churches they have. Okay. This is what happens when you give money to people that have no functional value, no functional sense of value. Now, if that money were being turned around and spent on the poor, on the sick, I'd be happier than heck. One of the things I've got in my list of priorities where it comes to my company, okay, is I will take a percentage of that money. And once I get all the percentages worked out, because I have them written down now, I don't. Okay. Once I get the percentages left and worked out, I will come right out and go, this is the amount that happens. See, most of the charities that are out there, only the best one I heard of, and unfortunately I don't recall the name, the best one I heard, 30 cents out of every dollar went to the actual charity. The rest went to overhead administration fees. When I'm talking about building this sort of thing, and yes, we're talking about down the road. Okay, well, down the road being I'm having it worked out so that when nickel one comes in, I will take a percentage of that. Whatever percentage it is, I'll let you know once I get it worked out. Because I decided on the idea. If I take a static amount of my net profit, okay, then as my net profit grows, so will my contributions. Okay. And this is something I'm committed to myself for. It's not to make everybody else go, oh, you should do that. I mean, it would be, it will help other people. But understand, my idea of charity does not mean go to the person sitting on the street going, I don't want to work. Can you give me money? I'm talking about helping the people quite often that are working anyway and still having troubles making ends meet. Okay. Now, I don't know what percentage I'm going to be working out. I've got to figure all that out, and I've got it written down here somewhere. Wonder if it's even visible. It might be right there. I just don't recall where I put it. Nope, it wasn't there. Yeah. Oh, I know where I put it. I really don't. Where is my blue viper? That shouldn't be it. Nope, that was a character. That was a fun character, though. But no, the reality is, and I will have to do that. As a matter of fact, I think I will make a point of doing that tonight. See, well, that's just it. If 70% goes, now do understand that was the best I heard. I've heard of charities where you give them all this money and only 1% of that goes to the charity. Okay, I will tell you this, as I get it set up, and I don't know how to go about setting it up, it may just boil down to coming straight out of my pocket, because I'm not going to be looking at a charity as a tax write-off for anybody. I won't be utilizing it in the way of going, oh, look at me, I'm so special because I got this charity. Okay, that's not what I'm looking at. Okay, I was raised to believe that if you've got a bit of a surplus, that you help the people that require help. This does not mean necessarily the person sitting on the side of the street. This may be the next door neighbor that is working, 16 hours a day and making ends meet. I found it absolutely remarkable. A few years back, I had a little bit of spare money. So I took 5 Christmas cards, just 5 of them. Okay, put a $20 bill in each, and all I wrote in it was, Merry Christmas from Inner Voice Enterprises. That was it, and I handed them to 5 different people in the mall. Most of the time I just walked on. But I did hear a scream at one point, because the person that got it, I guess it must have been really tight for cash. And I'm talking about turning cash over, not turning over a coupon to come and buy something. Okay, if you're going to deal with charity, okay, from my standpoint, it's simple. And this is just one of those things that I'm going to work it out so that I can make sure that it's accommodated. I will not mention names on myself as far as the charity goes, especially when I have a problem with them. But there was a charity in town here that literally they used to have and I'm not going to go into the name. They used to have a food truck to go out into the neighborhood, and once a week they would provide a hot meal to the people that were underprivileged. Now, absolutely, some of the people that went out there had more money than you could shake a stick at. Okay, and they went and participated in this and took some of the free money. Now, you might look at that and go, well, that's pretty rude. They already had a surplus. Everybody requires a break. But the thing that set me off with this particular charity is I knew the truck driver. I knew the guy that was running the food truck. And, of course, I go out and I never did get food from him, right? But I always went out and talked to him when I saw him there. And I turned around and I says, I'll see you next week. And he goes, no, unfortunately, you won't. I said, oh, you're quitting? He says, no. This charity had cut the food truck because it did not make them any money. Now, this is a charity that is extremely well known and claims to help people, claims to help the poor. I have not given a plug nickel to them since I found out they did this. Okay, because when a charity that is supposed to be helping people turns around and denies helping them because they themselves are not making a profit, this is no longer a charity. This is a money-grabbing company. That's it. Okay. Now, there are two charities I will give to, but only in the fashion of buy the food, take it down, drop it off at the food bank, or you buy pet food, take it down, drop it off at the pet food, at the SPCA or something. Because that way absolutely that charity that you're giving that food is going to the people. Okay. And if it happens to be a food bank and somebody from the food bank takes food home, clearly they need it as well. But we're talking about food. Okay. If I see somebody outside on the street and they're looking for, they're saying, look, I just need a little bit of money to eat, I won't give them money. Okay. What I end up doing is I'll ask them one question. Are you allergic to anything? Right. And 99% of the time, contrary to what the publicity and what the media tells you, or what either mainstream media or social media tells you, 99% of the time when I ask somebody if they're allergic to anything, they're like, no, I'm not allergic to anything. Right. At that point, I will go in and buy them a sandwich or buy them, something they can work with. Okay. But again, it's an issue of doing what is necessary. I will tell you this. When I take a look at the Red Cross, do they do a good job? In my opinion, yes. Although, in all fairness, I've seen them take way too long to get to places. But I don't know the logistics behind getting moved in. Okay, maybe there are stipulations, maybe there are regulations that create a problem. That make things slow. I remember reports saying that when Hurricane Katrina hit the States, that Canada was in there within 24 hours, and the U.S. government took almost a week to get in there to give them a hand. Now, to me, there's a problem with organization there. It's not that the organization itself is bad, but the organization of the organization may be a bit of a hindrance. So, will I be looking at giving money to charity, as in buying people food, buying people a meal out, this sort of thing? Absolutely, I will be. And as my money grows, the amount that I will be able to do that with will grow concurrently. Because like I said, if I work things out on a percentage basis of net profit, we're in much better situation. It's unfortunate that things have come to this point, but so many people look at it going, that person's asking for charity, therefore they're a lesser individual. The reality is, if more people would step up and go and be honest about how much trouble they're in and be willing to accept help, because we're taught that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And who in their right mind wants to be considered weak? Okay, well, I will tell you this. With a bad leg, I'd rather be considered weak than try and keep up with everybody. It just doesn't, it just works out that way for me. But it is absolutely imperative we take a look at the next, we've got 365 days in a year, which means we got 361 days left. Okay, the trick is to work together to make those 361, make every one of them better than the one before. Okay, I'm working out what I would like to see happen. One thing I know absolutely is going to happen, because quite frankly, I'm stubborn. There's two things I know are going to happen. One is, unless something happens I'm going to aim to have more money in my bank account, in all of my bank accounts by the end of the year than what I had when I started. Rest assured, that means I'm starting pretty low on a goal. Okay. And two, I will be working out the percentages that I can work with in order to ensure that out of the net profit, okay, and that I'll be calculating out at the end of each month, which means stay on top of it. January 31st, I tie everything off. Within the first couple of days of February, I will know what I've got money to work with. Okay, but the trick is, you take a look at what's coming in and make absolutely certain, if it is at all a possibility, make absolutely certain you do not spend more than what you're getting. Okay. Now, if I am correct, I may have a couple $100 coming in tomorrow. Okay, a government check coming in. But that counts as money coming in, which means that I don't spend all of it. Of course, we also have to realize I've got to put money away for the end of the month. Although, in all fairness, I already bypassed that problem. Okay, I went down and pulled some money, got some money moved around. Again, this is a question of knowing where you're standing. This is not a question of being the richest person in the planet. Okay, this is a question of knowing what you've got and realizing you have to work within, you have to live within your means. Okay, I know of some religions where they go, we want X percentage of your gross income, regardless of what's going on. And I'm thinking, why would you pay that? Okay, because I hate to tell you this, it's been tried before. Nobody has managed to buy their way into heaven. Okay, and in all fairness, nobody's managed to buy their way into hell either. Although the ones in hell are far more likely to take the money. Not that that guarantees you a trip in there, but they'll be happy. I was going through it today. Let me see here. That one there. There we go. I managed to get through. I just got to scroll down here. I think it's 5 more pages or something. There we are. Nope. I'm just looking at what I was getting accomplished with the end of an empire. Okay. Or not the end of an empire. Sorry, the end of an empire is a chapter. With Return to Paradise. I am almost a third of the way. No. Guess about a fifth. Yeah, about a fifth, a little over a fifth of the way through the final expansion for the Return to Paradise. Okay, so it really boils down to breaking things down so I know what I'm working with. Well, that's me. Well, of course that's me. But what do we got here? No, it really isn't. In all fairness there, Cliff, like Cliff is just saying the cryptocurrency is not a safe place to store money. I had mutual funds, and everybody says, oh, they're such a secure thing. No, they really aren't. I lost money on them. And this was under supervision of a financial advisor. Well, unfortunately, I lost some of it. I didn't lose all of it. Right, but I did lose money on mutual funds. This is why I refuse to invest anymore, except I will invest in people. Okay, like for instance, the people that are running the chat, running the YouTube channels, that are doing their best, like Dave, is doing a staggering job. Okay, he just posted. He's just picked up another terrestrial radio station. Okay, that is now carrying the spaced out radio shows. And I mean there's just no comparison to that. In case you missed the commercials there, Robbie, oh, by the way, Happy New Year, Robert. I don't know if I saw you come in before, but glad you can make it today. But as far as Big Macs go, you might want to pick a better restaurant, in my opinion. Of course, I found that McDonald's it's a great restaurant, and the food in it was absolutely fantastic when I was living in the bar. But the other thing you got to remember with Bigfoot is Bigfoot likes his kokanee. Just look at the old commercials. And by the way, he also apparently likes Winnebagos. But no, would I recommend cryptocurrency to anybody? Not a snowball's prayer. I won't touch it. Okay, I keep looking and everybody's going, oh, here's this financial robot. It'll make you money hands over fist. I'll tell you, there are so many poor people in the world that what's happening is people are preying on the people that are struggling. Honestly there, Philip, I really didn't have any of that set up. Money has never been a motivator, and this is where the problem is. I should have had it set up, but I have begun looking into things like for when my estate comes in, when my brother's estate comes in, I'm going to be talking to somebody that is not connected to me in any fashion, okay, financially speaking. I will go and talk to somebody about whether or not things like GICs are a good investment, to lock some of the money away. Because I'll tell you, mutual funds, I don't trust them anymore, so I'm pulling all my money out. I need it anyway, and it's losing money. I was told it'll make 8 to 10%. Yeah, I'm probably down 5 or 6. Well, I'm down, probably, I guess maybe not quite that much. I'm down about 400 on 5,000, so I don't know. See what that is, just a curiosity thing. Yeah, I'm down almost 8%. Okay, now this was not a good investment. Literally without exception, any sort of a gamble on investment, without exception, I've lost money. So am I going to sit here and talk to people and say, oh, you should invest in this? Not a prayer. I will invest in people When I've got the money, I will certainly look into people's businesses and, swing a deal where here's the money, here's the percentage I'm getting back from it. That sort of thing. But from my standpoint, if we invest in people, not in businesses, not in finance, but, as in investments, but in the people themselves, okay, we can absolutely turn this world around. Okay, now I don't know, it's turning around pretty clearly on its own. But it's time that we really focus on the idea of working together to make this a better world. But you got to do that by not looking into the past. Okay, there's an old saying that goes, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. The problem is what you're not told is those that dwell on history have exactly the same problem. Okay. I mean, it was funny. I watched a video. I watched a little ad today. It says, and it literally says, I'll show you the secrets to really being successful in life. Right. And he goes, number one, do not make resolutions. Do not make a list of things to do by the end of the year, because if you don't get them done, you'll be depressed. Do not make a list of to-do things. Lists do not work. Well, I'll tell you, right after he said that, he goes, make a list of things not to do. Now, I'm not sure where the difference is. Make a list of what to do and make a list of what not to do. As near as I can tell, this is still a list. Okay. But what I will tell you is whatever you're aiming at doing, like for instance, if I look at the Yldrbac Chronicles, okay, if I go through them one chapter at a time, yeah, that's what I thought, Philip. So I'm not following his advice. Okay, I figure if you can confuse me, this is great. Raven, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. The trick is absolutely make goals. Make them reasonable. Like, I would not recommend anybody go, I'm going to learn to fly by the end of the year, unless you're planning on taking flying lessons at a reputable flight school. Okay. You never talk to in my opinion, you do not talk to the people that run the flight school. Talk to the students. Find out what they think of the flight school, the ones that have already graduated. And that applies to any business. Okay. But I will tell you, put a goal together. Okay. Like for me, by the end of this year, I desire to be able to curl 25 pounds. Now, that's not a staggering amount, but I'm not starting out with 25. This is all I'm starting out with, because I figure this I can do. The heavier ones, not so much. But you set goals that are attainable, and then you break them down into smaller bites so that you can actually attain them. Okay, so do lists work? Do dream boards work? Absolutely. Where it comes to finances, it's the same issue. If you're looking at building finances, do not spend as much as what you're actually earning. Okay, if you're aiming at dropping weight, most of you are making one mistake right off the bat. No, I am not a health professional. I'm just living proof that my method works. Okay. Can you lose weight faster? Absolutely. My personal goal and my personal target is 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a week, meaning I'm looking at dropping 4 to 6 pounds a month. Yeah. Okay, now at 4 to 6 pounds a month, by the end of February, I will likely be down if I stay on track. And I have every intention of staying on track. If I stay on track, by the end of February, I should be down to my 180. Okay, maybe the end of March, because I'm going to be working on muscle at the same time. And I don't know the medical, the medical balance point there. Don't really care in all fairness. Yeah, that absolutely, like, way before 9/11 there, Philip, there was an interesting thing that came out, that apparently two of the terrorists had actually applied to a flight school to learn to fly the big aircraft. And they had apparently gone, I don't care how to get it off the ground, I don't care how to land it, I just need to know how to fly it. Now, to me, this is a pretty big red light. But this idea of finding out the survival rate of the flight school, and we're talking survival down the road, or at least I would be. Okay, personally, I've got no interest in learning to fly. Okay, I figured the way I look at it, on the ground, I can get lost in my own apartment. Can you picture how much faster it is to get lost in the air? Okay, can you picture how frightening that could be? But pick a goal that you're content with. Well, that was my thought. I mean, I've outlived most things. Again, what I mean by that is at 5 years old, I walked out of the morgue. There's not many people of us left that can say, hey, I was diagnosed dead, they shipped me to the morgue, and I left. Okay. Now, can I prove it? Not a prayer. It happened on a military base. Do I know here, and did I have confirmation from my father on his deathbed that this happened? The answer is also yes. Am I going to try and ever prove it one way or the other? No. I'm also not stupid enough to try and convince people, oh, I'm immortal. My faith in me is so strong that I can withstand a bullet. There was a chap in Africa, a shaman, that claimed that his belief in God was so strong that he would not die by a bullet. That nobody could kill him, right? Even by a bullet. Well, somebody took him up on the idea, and it was all done right in front of the congregation. So he told the guy, he says, "You wait until I'm ready." Well, I was on that military base because my father spent 20 years in the military. My father was an aircraft mechanic for 20 years. So we actually lived on the PMQs. That'd be the why. My labs was because at a very young age I was already psychokinetic, which threw everybody for a bit of a loop. And because of that little discovery, I ended up in my labs, military laboratories. For those of you that don't know what those are, okay, military laboratories are essentially the current version of the super soldier program. But, from my standpoint, I've always supported the military, like the people that decide, I'm going into the military to protect my family, to protect my country. Got a lot of respect for these people. And what I gather, I've never seen it happen. I've never heard of it happening up here in Canada. But I have no doubt it does. Okay. The people that really annoy me in the regards to the military side of it are the ones that participate in what you guys seem to call stolen valor. To me, this is just absolutely stupid. One of my neighbors, he died just last year, which is not entirely surprising. He was 92, but he was on Normandy Beach. And so I asked him one day, I said, look, the movies all show people running back. When they show the movies, they show people in the middle of a firefight running back to get their friends. I says, that doesn't add up to me. And the guy looks at me and he goes, I was there. He says, it never happened. He says, when we hit the beach, we ran for cover. And after the fighting was done, we went back out and hoped our friends were still alive. He said, there was no doubling back. Now, this same philosophy in my eyes is the same thing I look at when I'm looking at people that are sitting there going, I need help. I don't want to work, but I need help. Okay, I'm sorry. But frankly, to me, no, actually, in all fairness, I'm really not sorry. Oh, my apologies. Thank you there, Robert. Got a little sidetracked. Um, with the African shaman, he got the newscasters out there. He got all the people in place. All of his congregation, all of his village was standing around. And he tells the guy with the gun, he says, "You wait till I say yes." Right. So that I'm absolutely ready. So my God has had time to step in. So what he ended up doing was he goes, "Okay, I'm ready. Now I am totally immune." So this marksman, right, takes his gun and shoots the shaman in front of everybody else. Guess what happened? And I'm pretty certain everybody there can figure it out. The guy, by the way, as it turned out, wasn't actually immune from bullets. But he did, on the other hand, well, I guess technically he was. He stopped the bullet. Nobody else ever got hit by that bullet. You know, so, I mean, this is just one of these stupid things. And there are incredible amounts of people that do really stupid things. That was just one that made headlines. And of course, needless to say, his village kind of lost faith in him. Can't imagine why. You know, this is why I look at this and go, we've got to really work with people. Lots of people are just not picking up they're not getting the hint. Okay. You know, one of the worst inventions where it comes to people and where it comes to people's prosperity. Absolutely. You know, Robert, I really like that one site on the internet. It's called darwinawards.com. Okay. You know, it's absolutely phenomenal. Some of the things people do that end up getting them done it's amazing. You look at them going, clearly you didn't think that through. Like the gentleman that I knew of, that he was siphoning gas, which back in the 70s was normal. Okay. What wasn't normal was what he did. He wanted to make sure there was gas there. That's okay. That phone's up front now. He wanted to make sure there was gas in the tank. So what did this genius do? He turned around and used a lighter to see if there was gas in the gas tank. And you know what he found out? There used to be a whole lot of gas in the gas tank. Problem, when he used the lighter, all of the gas went away. By the way, so did his lifeline. Yeah, see, now that was the funny thing. I never had to build a resistance to bee stings. My older brother used to play around under the apple tree as well, or around the flower garden. But he would pet the bees. You know, he'd have them land on his hand, and then he would sit there, and I kid you not, this man would sit there with a bee on his hand, and he'd sit there petting the thing. Right. Yes, exactly, Robert. You know, I mean, the fumes in that gas tank absolutely went off without a problem. I just about said without a bang, but but these are just some of the things people do. And it's like when I used to get calls at work. I'm having financial difficulties. What should I do? And I never once, because my job depended on it, never once did I answer the way that I thought. Because my first instinct was to say, well, quit phoning a line that charges you $3.50 for them to actually say hello. This is not a good investment. Okay. From my end, it really boils down to this. Pay attention to what you're up to. If you're looking at dropping weight, understand, regardless of what any commercial tells you, okay, there are commercials that'll say, oh, take this pill, you can drop 40 pounds in a month. Maybe you can, but that toxin that you're flushing out of your system has to go through your kidneys, your liver, your bowels, you're going to overstress the other organs. Okay, my own outlook is real simple, and I'm living proof of it. A year ago, I was 246 pounds. As of the first of this year, I was 197.4. So I went up a little over the course of the holidays, pretty much. JCL, glad you can, and that you're listening in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I will be there unless, if I have another heart attack or another stroke, sorry, I'll clock out for a little while. But thus far, we're doing pretty good. I figure I've been sick. I was sick longer last year than I was in my entire life combined. So I figure, okay, I went 25 years without an illness. I've had enough illnesses. I'm done. I'm moving forward, not looking back to it. The neat part about the way things are going right now is you can look at the past, you can look at what the last year held for you, and you can go, yeah, in all fairness, I can't say I was perfectly free of it. I did have 3 tooth infections, 1 massive coronary that may have actually been fatal. I'm just not entirely certain, and a real annoying stroke. Haven't had the cold, haven't had a flu, haven't had a fever in over 25 years until the last 3 months. I don't consider a dislocated knee an illness. It's just a way of life. Okay, but one of the tricks that I found that really bolstered my immune system is anytime I'm awake, I run one thing through my head, the word heal. And I stay focused on that. Okay, now I am having some complications with some things I'm aiming at putting together, like rebuilding my teeth. That's proving to be a pain in the neck. And my knee itself, well, I've been this way I'm 59 now, so for 47 years, I've had a bad leg. You kind of get used to it. But I do have a decent cane now that at least it's not likely to wear out before I do. But you've got a choice. We all have the same choice. We can look at the past and go, what did I do wrong? Oh, I should have done this. And you start berating yourself for where you made miscalculations. You can absolutely do that. Okay. For me, I've got a really bizarre idea as to telling whether I'm getting in better shape. This t-shirt has a lot to give. Okay, but over the course of the next year, assuming I don't dissolve the thing first, I intend on tightening that up so I don't have a lot of room in it. Okay, not because I'm trying to become a massive weightlifter. Okay, I just simply am tired of being without the strength to do basic stuff. And this is just a question of me looking in the mirror and going, I'm not content. Like if you take a look at my older videos, okay, even the ones from a year ago, my hair was way down here. Okay, and quite often I'd have grown a complete beard just because of the fact I wasn't leaving the house. My other half, much as I intend to marry her, it doesn't matter how close we get. She's never going to physically see us, in all likelihood. Although we'll see what we can do about changing that. But the reality is she's blind. So what I look like is not a real critical factor. But how I behave does matter. And let's face it, socially speaking, tact and diplomacy are not my strongest suit. I was talking to a chap the other day that was talking to me about something. And I said, look, let's get down to the brass tacks. I don't care the benefits of what you're trying to sell until I know what the price is. Once you tell me what the price is, then you can go about telling me about why it's such a good deal. And he started to push again on the deal. I said, look, So I don't think you got that right. So you make one more word, say one more word about the benefits of this product, and before you tell me the price, I hang up. Amazingly, the guy quit talking about the price or about the benefits. You know, they I thought about yes, but I have no idea how to go about it. You know, I made a mold of my hand years ago, not a mold. I made a latex cover of my hand. Arts and crafts and I don't get along all that well. Okay, but that is, in all fairness, there, JCL. Sorry, Robert. In all fairness, that's actually a really neat idea. But honestly, I have no idea how to go about it. You know, I've never tried working with molds or anything else. You know, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I couldn't draw a straight line. So, of course, artwork class didn't exactly go well for me. But that's not an entirely bad idea. Actually, in all fairness, it's a pretty good idea. Because the only way she's ever going to actually see me is with her hands. And right now, she's still living south of the border. But I should look into that, see if I've got the money. See, I will have money to be able to play around. I just have to be careful with it and see what I can come up with. And of course, once I've got that down, other things are optional. Yeah, it would have to be. You know, the rubber mats I'm going to have you buy. I presume you're referring to making a solid one that doesn't bend. You know, because one thing I have decided is this year, I've got a list of people I do want to do Christmas for, I do a Christmas gift for. But I decided this year I'm making most of mine. Whether that means, whether that means making a gift, like buying something wooden and painting it, or buying something metal and painting it, because I'm neither a woodworker nor a metal worker. But putting that effort into building it, into painting it is one option. I do know how to crochet, right? And I do know how to write. But that's pretty much the length of my, shall we say, artistic capability. And again, I've got all the time in the world right now. One of the benefits of actually not having a job anymore is that I can do what I please the rest of the time. I don't even, I don't pay attention to, I got to be on clock by 3:00, which is what I used to have. Although I will tell you, this afternoon, it hit 4:00. My alarm went off because I've got the alarm set for 4, so that I can actually be here for 4:30. But I completely lost track of time. And the alarm goes off, and I'm like, gotta drop what I'm doing and get going. And yes, to give you an idea how important that was to me, the thing I was doing at the time was talking to my other half. But she also understands that I'm looking at shifting gears here. But, learning how to do plaster or learning how to do epoxy molds and that sort of thing isn't an entirely bad idea. Okay, as long as I remember one little detail, and that's this funny little problem here. But that's not bad. I can calm it down most of the time now. It used to be really, really bad. As a matter of fact, right before Christmas, about 2 weeks before Christmas, I guess. 3D printing is an interesting idea. The problem is anything computerized. The fact this computer works at all, we can safely say a lot of it has to do with Frank. I will pass that on to her, Philip. Right now, unless she came in under a really bizarre name, like one of your guys, I know she's not in the chat room, but I will pass it on to her when I see her. When I'm talking to her next, which will, in all likelihood, be in an hour and a half, 2 hours here. Okay. Because much as we aren't in the same country, we are on the horn virtually all the time. And yes, I realize that long distance relationships are a different ball of wax. But the reality is we've been together for almost 2.5 years now. And thus far, we haven't even, thank you so much, Robert. We haven't even had one argument. Not one. We've had some differences of opinion, but not one argument. Now, I've only ever seen one other relationship in my life where that happened. And that was with my own mom and dad. Okay. They met in March of 56. Got married in August of 56. Moved to a different province altogether where none of their family was. And were under one roof for 60 years. I never once even heard of them having a fight. Okay, I'm sure they had differences of opinion, but with 8 kids in the house, 2 of them foster kids, plus 2 that were being babysat, I never even heard them once have an argument between them. And this is why I look at this going, I've had 2 years with this young lass, and never one fight. I'm not complaining. Okay, from my standpoint, I just as soon never have a fight. Like I said, personally, I'm a pacifist. Okay, you certainly wouldn't know that by the Yldrbacian Chronicles, because the people in there are as violent as they get, but they are having a fun time. I mean, there's one scene that takes place in the Return to Paradise where there's a chap in there that is causing a problem, and Jeremiah, who happens to be the prime protagonist, okay, walks up behind the guy. Terry Brown, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Hope your year has been going well thus far. And absolutely happy New Year to you. Jeremiah walks up behind this guy who's being an absolute pain in the neck, grabs him by the back of the head and drives his face onto the table. Right, drives his face onto the table and says, you really do have to learn to do things a little differently. I told you to smarten up. Right. And I mean, it just goes back and forth like this. Very relaxed about the whole thing. Miles, the guy he grabbed hold of, not quite so relaxed about it. But this is why while I'm writing The Return to Paradise, I'm going through to double check for consistency in the other 2 books. Okay. In Birth of the Wolf Pack and in the end of an epic. Now, the funny part about it, the difficult part about it, is I'm writing a section right now that I got finished writing, and now I have to go back into another book, into the 7th in the saga. I think it's the 7th in the saga, where I have to write the original event. This is why I'm writing the entire saga at once, but only releasing it 1 book at a time. And I was supposed to do a video today, but fortunately I'll get done here. I'll get done here in about a half an hour, and that'll put it 7. I've got about 3 hours before I've got to be on the other show. Okay, and do not ask me the address, because right now I really don't know it. Okay. If we see Nikki in here, she undoubtedly will know it. As we can tell, been talking a whole pile. Fortunately, I've got other liquid here. But in between this show and the one I gotta go on, right, I've got to go on the same this evening. I will get the excerpt recorded and posted. I should have done it this morning, but got tied up with doing other odds and ends, i.e., getting my my Amazon channel up and running and dealing with the guy setting it up, as well as getting my ISBN numbers. ISBN. Okay. Getting them all worked out so that I can actually start to make my world work properly. But it really boils down to one simple issue. Okay, if we're going to move forward with our lives, take a look at where you are. Never mind where you came from, because trying to explain it even to yourself, never mind anybody else, may be problematic. Okay, so you look at where you're standing and make a commitment that every month that you're at least 1 penny richer than the month before. In all fairness, there are a few soliloquies, but no, I don't have anybody actually making a speech at all that I'm aware of. So I don't know where the idea came from. Okay, but the reality is, if you think about it, can you actually see me doing a speech even about my own stuff? I mean, speeches are supposed to be concise. The way I was taught in English, they're supposed to be concise. They're supposed to have a direct path and a purpose to them. Have you ever heard me actually follow one line of thought, like straight through to the end of that one line of thought? Assuming that it was a thought longer than a half a minute. So I have no idea where they came up with that. But I do have, there's a number of emails that I've avoided simply because I wasn't in the right mindset to deal with the change. At this point, I've decided on two major factors. Health is a dominant priority for me, but that's mental, physical, financial, and spiritual health. Okay, but those are for me personally, which is one of the reasons why I said where it comes to gaming, I'm going to do that in all likelihood until I drop dead, assuming my body doesn't drop dead first. But a stroke didn't keep me away from the gaming table. I'll be hanged if anything else is going to. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I talk about being addicted to it, no. I just happen to find it is so much more relaxing. I tried that, when I was out I actually was a speaker in the Experience to Speak conference back in 2013 and 2014. Or was it 2012 and 2013? In either event, I had notes with me. And they lasted about as long as the first 30 seconds. Ultimately, it really is it, Robert. And by the way, I did get, I've still got stuff to do on it. But this is the one that was white yesterday. The reason I haven't done this by this line here, that's a rope, and I've actually got to do it in yellow. But as you can see, I did get a fair chunk of it painted. Okay. So I got that one there. And then, of course, yesterday, as you saw, I was working on the green on the bottom there. It's a great pastime. It's a great way. And we had a psychologist sit in on our game one day. And she looks at it and she goes, D&D role-playing games like this, she says, it reminds me of the old campfire stories where people, sit around a campfire, One person lays out the feel of the atmosphere of the world, and the other players basically go around and add their own twist to it and make things happen. I've got a character that I'm playing right now in a solo campaign that is, do I have it here? No. Rough guess, from the bottom of that hand, I would guess he's about that tall. Basic, and I'm probably off on the height. He is 2 feet tall, and that's it. Okay, but this little guy just bought himself a mansion where it's a 3-floor mansion with 14,000 square feet to each of 3 bedrooms on 1 floor. The whole building is an acre, covers an acre of property. So this guy goes out and buys it, and now he's looking at ways to make it actually pay off. And that's exactly the point. The thing is, you get a decent group of gamers around. Like my buddy and I, we can play solo. The biggest game I had, I was involved in playing a game where I wasn't the game master, but we had, I think, a dozen of us at the same table. Yeah, the guy, he's a gnome. Okay. But like most of my characters, he's a little bit twisted. He turned around and, like I say, he's only 2 feet tall. So we're not talking about somebody that's a mainline fighter. Well, that's just it. I mean, I've got to find out how, because I forgot to ask the game master. So I'll ask him tomorrow. I forgot to ask how tall the rooms are. But if you think about it, 1 bedroom is 14,000 square feet. He's going to break that up into several rental units. But depending on the height of the floor of the bedroom, he may be able to take some of it and put 2, possibly 3 floors in it. I know he's actually a forest gnome. He's not actually a trickster. He's quite frank about it. There was the game last week. There were half a dozen bandits that literally told him, "Give us all, get out of the wagon and give us all your stuff." And he looked at the 6 of them and goes, "I'll make you a slightly different deal." He says, "How about if you leave me alone and I let you live?" Well, they didn't believe him, so they attacked. One of them walked away. And I mean, it was right in front of the cops. It's like the cops heard what was going down. But this little guy, and by the way, because I didn't name him, right? I was working on naming the game master, who, let's face it, my character was born into his world, called him Weapon. So we've got a little gnome that's 2 feet tall with the frame. I picked the last name. So his first name is Weapon. His last name is Gone. But if you look at the way the name is spelled when you pull it all together, Weapon. And then the word gone without the E on the end of it. Okay. But this little munchkin he just doesn't back down. There's nothing to him, but what the heck? Yeah, pretty much. Well, that was something. I actually had a client years ago with that in mind. A client of mine phones me up one day and he sounded like heck. Right. I says, "What happened?" I says, "You sound like your mouth is full of marbles." He goes, "Yeah." He says, I got jumped last night. Right. He said, "I got jumped by 3 guys last night." I said, did any of them not end up in the hospital?" He says, "Well, I had to leave one of them conscious. Somebody had to phone the ambulance." So, I mean, and that was a real live person. Of course, that same person, he ended up, like when I first met him, he called me right after getting out of jail. And he had asked me he had asked me about possible relationships. I says, you're not going to believe this. But I said, you've been in forced separation. All I knew was his first name and his birth date and the city he was calling from. I said, you've been dealing with forced separation from somebody for more than a decade. As in, something happened that forced the two of you apart. This person is coming back into your life within about the next 6 weeks. Right, within the next 6 weeks. Well, he called me all sorts of really colorful names that you only really find out about if you're doing hard time. He had spent 10 years in prison for second-degree murder. Okay. Basically, he lost control in the bar. Okay. And he called me all sorts of names until about 6 weeks later. Well, really, 2 days before the 6 weeks. He phones me up. And he goes, he phones me up and he says, how did you know that? I says, first, who are you? And second, did you check the phone before phoning here? I said, it's called a psychic line for a reason. And he goes, and so he tells me who it is. I said, so what did I do? What did I know? And was it good news? He says, my ex-fiance, who I was separated from due to the fact I went to prison, waited for me and showed up this morning. Right. Well, the two of them worked through a little bit of rough edges. I helped them deal with it, and the guy came out to meet me. Right, so I met this man face to face. Tell you, there wasn't much to him, but he looked like 80 miles of bad road. But that's understandable when you think about it. And he was driving an old rust bucket of a 77 Mustang. And in all fairness, his girlfriend didn't look that much better. She just hadn't done the hard time. But when he come out, right, as it turned out, the two of them were engaged to be married. Right, but when he went into prison, he literally walked in there and he picked them while he was still in the shackles being drawn into prison. He jammed the clothing into the guard's hands and landed on the biggest bruiser in the place and put the guy in intensive care. Put him in the hospital. So he started off his trip in hard time doing 6 weeks solitary. This was the kind of guy this gentleman was, but this was a person in real life as compared to the ones we get in the gaming tables. Now, do I spend a lot of time gaming? You bet. But I spend much more time looking at how I'm going to take my life. Yeah, there really is. I mean, it's a remarkable feeling. But I spend more of my time trying to figure out how I can change my life around, but much more time than even that. Trying to figure out how to help other people figure out how to turn their own life around. Because I'll tell you, the feeling that I get from somebody else being successful is absolutely remarkable. For me, it's better than any high I've ever had. If I can point somebody in a direction that works for them, that to me is the best thing I can get going. And this is one of the reasons why I now find myself going, oh, like it used to be, I've got to do the video, and it was a real struggle for the first year. I just about quit doing it because it wasn't connecting. Okay. I wasn't getting the followers. I wasn't getting the point across. Now it's a whole different feel. So, of course, I woke up, like I said, today. I'm sitting there talking to my other half. And all of a sudden the alarm goes off and I'm like, uh-oh, I got to be online in half an hour. I got to get going. Like I said earlier, I mean, from my standpoint, I never saw myself as having much of a sense of humor. Or if I do, it's very twisted. Like some of the scenes I've ended up writing or some of the movies I watch, It concerns me when I watch somebody and they're getting the living, like when a bully or a problem child is getting the living stuffing beaten out of them. And I get this sense of, gee, that's a great way to do things. Yet in real life, in this actual reality, I wouldn't raise my hand to somebody, and I certainly wouldn't stand around and watch it. Okay. Yeah, like Deadpool is a hoot to watch. I mean, he really is. He's got a mouth on him, but he's got a real twisted way of looking at things. Personally, of all the X-Men in the movies, or in the comics for that matter, I always related to Wolverine best. Not because of the adamantium, okay, but because of the attitude. From my standpoint, like all the characters were really well developed. And I take a look at when Stan Lee passed, we lost a phenomenally creative mind. We lost a phenomenal mind. Same as when Gene Roddenberry, the original creator of Star Trek, when these people have left, we have lost some absolutely brilliant minds. Okay. And not all brilliant minds are, shall we say, of noble focus. Okay. But all brilliant minds should be recognized. I should show you one day. My brother used to run my second oldest brother, the one that passed away a decade ago. He's the one that used to work on semi-professional theater. Okay, he would perform live. And as an adult, he was still singing soprano. Now, myself, if I want to carry a tune, I'm going to get a ghetto blaster, or I'm going to get a radio, or turn on my phone. That's the easiest way for me to carry a tune. Probably the only one that's going to actually work for other people not to cringe. But if we can make this world, and every one of you has the capacity to do so, but the trick is not to look to the past and go, what did I do wrong? Okay, look to the present and ask yourself, am I making a positive difference while I'm doing this? Is this something that I can stand up and say, I did it? Okay, I wonder if I've got this up. That one. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at my business account right now, and it's pretty low. Right, like right now, my business account is sitting, and I kid you not, this is real-time numbers. And this is what I'm referring to. When I talk about the tools I personally use, these are the tools that I know work because I personally use them. So I think what I'm going to do, and bear in mind, this year I'm doing something a little different where it comes to the business. Okay. That is absolutely essentially correct there, Robert. What can I do better? What can I do more effectively? What can I do to help myself not require help from other people? And this does not mean you shouldn't ask for help. As a matter of fact, if you're having a problem, the best thing in the world to do is find somebody that knows how to do it and get their assistance. When my computer crashed about a month and a half, 2 months ago, matter of fact, it crashed right before it was supposed to go online. When it did that, I called Frank, a friend of mine that some of you know, and asked him for help. I didn't realize we were at this point. Guys, we are hitting the 2-hour mark in about 30 seconds here. I still have things to do. I've kept you long enough, and as you already saw, my throat was starting to seize. So I will say thank you so very much for joining me. Okay, I will be back. Tomorrow's Thursday. I won't be back tomorrow. I will be back on Friday, which ought to be really neat. That'll be another one of those busy days. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.